Hi, I'm Sam Ballaton Crimes.
And I'm Alice Bellat.
In this episode of Welcome, Victoria Stead takes us on a trip to Oro Province in Papua New Guinea, near where the Kokoda Track is located.
Kokoda is the site of a major episode in Australia's war history, where Papua New Guineans helped Australians defeat the Japanese in World War II. It's a popular war tourism destination for Australian travellers. We'll hear more about that in the next episode.
In this episode, though, Tori gives us something more than just a picture of Kokoda. She takes us to the surrounding areas and introduces us to Papua New Guinean families who have long histories of interaction with Australians and other foreigners.
Yeah, I learnt so much from this episode about Australia's war history, but also our colonial control in PNG, and about how much better off Papua New Guineans were if they had mates in colonial government.
I know, it's so fascinating as an Australian to learn about this, really rather late in life, to be honest. But what I also love about this episode is this really frank and honest appraisal from the people she talks to of how they make sense of their relationship with Australians now, and how much of that is, understandably, connected to what kind of development and resources they can access.
We in here, we don't realize what this trekking is all about. We only understand that there is a trekking taking place in Kokoda area alone. Not down here yet. And we don't know what is trekking. What is this industry all about? We are all confused. We seem to see tourists coming, flying in and out, trekking Kokoda tracks. Is it for war purpose, or is it for hiking, or whatever they want to do at their own interest? But these are the small little questions that build up to bigger ones. And this is how we are very quiet.
Since the mid-1990s, a bustling war tourism industry has emerged in Papua New Guinea, focused particularly on the Kokoda Track. Each year, up to several thousand people, mostly Australians, travel to PNG to complete the 96-kilometre mountain trek between Kokoda Station in Oro Province and Port Moresby. It's done, most often, as a form of wartime commemoration. Trekkers follow the footsteps of the Australian soldiers who fought along the track in 1942 in a desperate but ultimately successful campaign to stop Japanese troops from taking Port Moresby.
Kokoda, in the past, Kokoda is not famous. I think after Australians started off the trekking business, it became famous.
Ori Kenya lives at Kokoda and watches the groups of trekkers that pass through regularly to and from the foothills of the mountains. More than 45 years after the end of Australian colonial rule in PNG, the Kokoda Track is one of the only spaces today within which ordinary Papua New Guineans and Australians have much to do with one another.
If you and I go to Melbourne and tell the Melbournians that we are from Papua, I'm from Kerema, they don't know where Kerema is. They don't know where Papua is. But when you call Kokoda, Kokoda is very, very famous. It's very famous.
I'm Victoria Stead. I'm an Australian-based anthropologist, and I've been working in Papua New Guinea for over 13 years. I'm interested in the relationships between Papua New Guineans and Australians, in the histories that connect us and sometimes separate us, and what those histories mean today. In the next episode, we'll travel to Kokoda to see what the trekking industry looks like for those who live there, and what kinds of relationships it has given rise to between trekkers and locals. Before that, though, in this episode, we travel to a village called Kapurakambo. It's just a few hours' drive from Kokoda Station in PNG's Oro Province, also known as Northern Province, but it's well outside the circuits of the tourism industry. It's one of the places whose name most Australians would not recognise. Today, Kapurakambo, or Kope as it's known to locals, is a small village. Back in 1942 though, the place was a coffee plantation and home to just one man, James Mamogoba. Like Kokoda, it too was a site of fierce conflict during the war.
I'm Tom Jibril Tera from Kapurakambo village. Kapurakambo is my village in northern province in Papua New Guinea. Up in the mountains in Kokoda, when the Japanese retreated back to the beachhead, this was the place where the heavy battle took place.
Graydon Mamogoba is James Mamogoba's grandson.
I've told you, and I can tell you now, is that 3 months they've been fighting here.
Like many places in Oro, the community at Kapurakambo have hopes that their war history might attract tourists in the same way that they see happening at Kokoda. Here's Tom Terra again.
Me and the family, we decided to set up a guest house, purposely to cater for such tourists if they're interested into this area. But openly, we don't have a guest to the guest house.
So not many people are coming?
Not many people come in.
As the residents of Kapurakambo watch Australian trekkers travel to and from Kokoda and wonder why those tourists aren't also interested in their place, they recall the remarkable tale of their own ancestor, James Mamogoba. Particularly, they recall the relationships that he was able to forge with Australians and other outsiders. These relationships, and the life that James was able to create as a result, are held up in contrast to the absence of relationships that his descendants describe today.
I'm Conway Mamogoba from Kapurakambo village. I'm married with 2 kids. I'm a subsistence farmer.
Conway Mamogoba is another of James Mamogoba's descendants. With his siblings and cousins and their families, Conway lives in the village established by their grandfather. Their economy is mostly a subsistence one, which means they live on what they grow themselves.
My granddad, James Mamogoba, came long way from Ope in the North Coast area, and he started living in this place before the war.
That's Graydon. He's one of the descendants of Mamogoba, who, among his siblings and cousins, tells me the story of how their grandfather came to be living by himself in 1942, in a single hut, surrounded by blocks of coffee and cocoa he planted himself. Noreen Kaber is another one of James Mamogoba's grandchildren.
So I just want to tell you a bit of how my grandpa has started and how we existed today. And I could tell you that my grandpa is full of wisdom. He doesn't write. He did not go to school, but he uses his head to do everything that he sees his things and then does it on his own. So he's full of wisdom.
I'm told that in the 1930s there were coffee, copra and cocoa plantations dotted across the landscape. These were the backbone of the colonial economy in what was, at that time, the Australian-administered territory of Papua. Plantation owners were white, Australians or other Europeans, and the men who worked for them were Papuan. James Mamogoba, though, a Papuan man, decided to begin his own plantation. As a young boy, James had worked for a German sailor, and he knew some of the white colonial officials and plantation owners from that time.
So he was asking them to get coffee seeds and plant them in Kope. This was his land. So he was asking them but these white people, they said James beg Mamogoba because he was always asking the white people to give him coffee to plant. That's how he had the seedling to plant coffee in here and then establish this home of ours, Kope village. Eventually, the white people gave him coffee seeds.
Then, in July 1942, Japanese ships arrived on the nearby coast, followed by Allied planes and troops.
But I will tell you what I heard from the old people, what they experienced, and I'd actually never seen the war myself yet.
Michael Gaum was born 10 years after the war, and he grew up hearing stories from his parents about what it was like for local people across the province.
A terrible thing, number one. And the exchange of guns, blowing bombs, planes around the air, in the airs, ships coming up, new experiences, different skins, different languages, the environment. So we were in a scary situation, and then we need to get refuge somehow. So we moved upwards and along the coastways down to the north coast. That is where our refuge is.
At first, the Japanese soldiers moved quickly through the area as they made their advance from the coast up towards Kokoda.
And that is where the Japanese took the track road, the back road. They traveled so fast towards Kokoda Road.
It was after the Battle of Kokoda, in November of that year, that the fighting returned to Kapurakambo, as the depleted Japanese force moved back towards their bases on the coast.
Our dad told us that the war was really, how would I describe it? Really bad. Most of the Japanese were starving, and it was really heavy defense by the Japanese. It was a U-shaped defense where the Australians couldn't break through. So the campaign in here was very long.
Graydon picks up the story from Conway, describing how the fight spread out around the plantation. He says that both sides made use of the narrow tracks his grandfather had cut through the thick bush to access his own food gardens and hunting grounds.
They found him and they used many of his tracks for going out to the hunting. Because he was here himself, they used his tracks for going out to the garden or going to the bush or elsewhere. We think that it's the track that James been using for his bush tracks. They were using to come across to attack the Japanese.
Many of the Japanese dead were buried on the land where Tom Terra lives today, where he built his guest house. Here's Tom.
Between Kapurakambo and Geboto, 500 Australians died. And 2,100 Japanese died in this area. So my guest house and my home is lying upon a grave of the Japanese.
James Mamogoba gave what he had, food from his garden, to the men fighting and dying around him. Graydon.
So the Americans and the Australians or even the Japanese, our granddad had done many things. The both sides he fed them.
Why did he do that? Why did he show them that hospitality?
Hospitality because he was himself out in the jungle himself, and it was in wartime. War is not a good thing. That's what my dad said, because they had suffered.
After the war, James Mamogoba continued to grow his plantation. Australia continued its colonial administration of Papua, now part of the unified territory of Papua and New Guinea, until PNG's independence in 1975. James once again sought out connections with the foreigners living in town, securing from them small pieces of roasting and grinding equipment as he built his coffee business. He opened a small store. As Noreen recalls this period, she describes the relationships that James Mamogoba, her grandfather, was able to create with outsiders, including with the white plantation owners around him.
And too many whites who were who had blocks around here before now, cocoa blocks here. They know who Jimmy Mamogoba is. So he's a very nice old man, friendly man, and every time they'll get into their jeep, and they said, "We'll go and see Jimmy Mamogoba," and they used to drive down. And Grandpa used to give them his coffee. That time he used to grind coffee, so he used to give them, and then they sit a while, and then they go back to their homes.
Everyone came for Jimmy Mamogoba's coffee. The story goes, even the Queen tasted it. Saul, another of James's grandsons, explains.
The Queen wanted the coffee. She just wanted to taste it. So those white people came down and then they got that coffee for the Queen to taste it.
Graydon says it was the Governor-General who came to collect it.
Dad told us that he had made a bit of present for making coffee and giving it to the Queen. So when the Governor-General was here looking at Papua New Guinea, and he was here in our province, so that was a present for Queen that James has done, a granddad made for Queen. Sorry, too many dust, but anyway.
So this is the old equipment
That's right.
that he used to use.
What he used to use.
This was the Papua, which he starts from here. Take it out here.
There's no coffee grown here anymore. The industry is concentrated in the PNG highlands instead. For the most part, the community live on the food they grow themselves. They supplement that with the money they can make growing and selling betel nut, the nut of the areca palm that is widely chewed as a stimulant across PNG, as well as the mustard sticks that people chew with them.
We take it to the general or public market up at town. Our mothers carry them early in the morning and then sell them and come. Maybe they earn, I would say, the average of 50 kina or lousy 30 kina per day. A big load of mustard and betel nut going up and then coming down, but it's not good.
James's equipment and the old wartime cooking pot are kept locked in the old shed he used to trade out of. On the outside hangs his portrait, a black and white photo taken by a Chinese man, the owner of the Wing Hay supermarket company. He was another of Mamogoba's partners.
So when the Chinese or the Australian people comes down from Popondera, they shared with him, they ate with him, and they did many good things. We can't do it now, but he has done that.
James Mamogoba's grandchildren look back at their grandfather's life and the things that he was able to build that seem out of reach for them now. At the heart of this were the relationships he was able to create with outsiders. Today, Noreen's house is a short distance from the main part of Kapurakambo village. It's a small house built from thatched sago leaves and timber and surrounded by flowers, just opposite the Japanese burial ground. When she first moved there, she says the ghosts of the dead soldiers would visit at night.
I was with my little girl and a boy living on that house, living at my home on our own. And one night I got scared, so I came up one night, came up here, and then when I went down to get to bed, I was just lying down and I could hear the footsteps of people coming. And they came up the steps. I could hear them walk up the stairs, and they pushed the door. They pushed my door, and I heard, and my young boy heard about it. And then we expected the real people to shout or call out for us. But then after all, we didn't hear anything. So we knew that that's the funeral home for Japanese. So we could realize and tell that that was the spirit of the dead Japanese people.
Do they bother you now?
No, they normally when Japanese came, they said Tokyo, Kapurakambo, Tokyo, maybe they want to get the spirit out from Papua New Guinea and take it back to Japan. So that's why all the spirit has been gone to Japan. Now I'm free.
Since the end of the war, relatives of Japanese soldiers who died in Papua New Guinea, and particularly those buried there, have visited to pay respects and perform rituals for the dead. And all of the foreign nations involved in the conflict, Australian, American and Japanese, continue to make repeated visits, searching for the remains of those who went missing in action.
It's a horrible history of war. That's why we feel sorry for these soldiers. They were human beings just like us who came to war in this area. For what reason, we don't know. So we have to give their bones back. The Australians, the Americans, and the Japanese.
As the customary landowner of the ground where the Japanese war cemetery lies, Tom has built relationships with some of the Japanese relatives who've come to honour their ancestors. Among his possessions is a book, printed in Japanese. It's the diary of a soldier who died here in the war, which was published after his death. Tom can't read the Japanese script, but he's gone through with a pencil, underlining dates and place names written in English. In doing so, he's pieced together a sense of the life and death of a man who he has never met, but who lies buried in his land. Slotted in the pages of the book are several letters and postcards written to Tom by the soldier's descendants, photos of the soldier when he was alive and of his family.
Japanese were army, like Australia and Americans, and the PIB, which my grandfather also fought in this war and died on the side of the Allied.
That's the Papuan Infantry Battalion, a fighting unit of indigenous Papuan and New Guinean men in the Allied forces.
My grandfather was a corporal for the PIB, C Company. Corporal Uro Terra. He was a section commander and fought up in the Kokoda terrain, and he was shot there, killed there. He was buried, and we never found his body, and we never saw him again. We give the bone freely because we know what the war was like. We were told by our grandfathers and our fathers. That's why we feel sorry for the Japanese soldiers. We feel sorry for the American and Australian soldiers, how the war took place in this place.
But these visits have not yielded the kind of industry that people see at Kokoda, or the kinds of material benefits they imagine come with that. We heard at the start of this story that Tom's family built a guest house to service some of the war tourism they hoped would come to the area.
We built the guest house in 2016 and it's already open in 2017. Recently, I have a Japanese tourist here purposely to retrieve their bones, and we had them for a night and they left. That was my first tourist.
That was in September 2019, 2 years after Tom's family first opened their guest house.
They just go free and then they look around for their bones, and then I think they have brought all the spirit back, so they don't say that again. They just dug the bone and then take the bone and go back.
They just come and pick up their bones and then go. Nothing good.
That's Saul again. I asked him what he thinks of the trekking industry.
It's that industry never come and meet us. It's only Kokoda and Buna, and it goes and goes. Never come and reach us. Because the battlefield was here, and then we expect those type of people here, but they never. That's very sad.
Like my other brothers said, 3 other brothers had said, we've been left behind. We have been left and not recognized after all.
As people in Kapurakambo look towards Kokoda and the flows of tourists who gravitate there, they wonder what it is that the tourists are looking for. What kinds of relationships are they pursuing? As I think about this place, more questions bubble up. What might a genuinely shared history between Australia and Papua New Guinea look like? What would it mean to extend our historical imagination beyond Kokoda? Indeed, what would it mean to recognise the war itself as just one chapter in a long, complex history of encounter that also includes Australian colonialism? And what would it mean to engage ethically with that shared history? Here's Michael Gaum.
There was a comment made by the Australian ambassador to Papua New Guinea at one time at the Anzac Day in Papua, and it comes on all the time. This is what he said. For Australia, Papua New Guinea, you're special in our hearts. From those people those have gone, those young ones coming up, and us living today, we have a special, in our heart, a special place for Papua New Guinea. When I heard that comment in there, I felt that is how deep Australia's relationship with Papua New Guinea, and that should remain that way. But Australia must look at Papua New Guinea properly. They look at the authorities, but people make up the authorities. Why don't they look at the people instead of looking at authorities?
As we walk together along a narrow bush path, further into the bush and towards the site of 2 old bomb craters, I ask Michael Gaum what these historical sites mean to the people in Kapurakambo. Are they important for people here, or is it mostly for foreigners who come?
Somebody has to show an interest in there because this is our land. They fought in here. That is the story about fighting a war in this place. But to have those places identified, and these local people have already identified the places. But then, what's the purpose of them having interest in there when somebody's not having interest in there? Somebody, in a sense, that people who have fought here, and if they're showing interest to see those areas in there, then you see locals showing interest as well to look after it. So you see the interaction of importance among themselves. Mm-hmm.
So they're really the local value of those sites is really only if there's a relationship.
Exactly.
The Welcome podcast is based in Naarm on the unceded lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. Naarm is also known as Melbourne, Australia.
This episode was produced and recorded by Dr. Victoria Stead.
Script supervision and editing by James Milsom.
Theme music composed by John Bartley.
Special thanks to the community at Kapurakambo and to Andrew Yauga, Margaret Mbahe, Mavis Manuda Tonjia, Drita and Bray Punya, and McLaren Hiari.
If you like this show and haven't already, please subscribe, rate and review on iTunes or wherever you listen to us. It helps spread the word about the show and we really appreciate it.